welcome to our first episode of The Wellness Dilemma. I'm Jen.
And I'm Abby, and we're so excited to be here, starting this podcast journey with everybody. So we wanted to use our time in this episode to introduce ourselves and introduce what we do at Thrive and what you can look forward to hearing on The Wellness Dilemma. And just for our viewers and listeners to know that this podcast is actually an arm of our services at Thrive Network Co. Mm-hmm. And if you're not familiar with us there, you can find us on our website or our Instagram page, and we'll make sure that we put the links in the episode description for you. And what we do at Thrive, we really focus more on personal wellness, specifically around burnout recovery for myself as a coach, and trauma-conscious leadership, yourself as a trauma-conscious yoga instructor. Mm-hmm. And we also do a lot of trauma-informed trainings, workplace trainings, and things like that. And so we really like to focus on really looking at how the wellness sector and the self-help industry can become really harmful and even predatory at times. Mm-hmm. And so we've been really inspired to actually talk about that really openly from working within it. And so that's kind of what we're going to bring to you here with the Wellness Dilemma podcast. Before we get into that too much, we wanted to make sure that we kind of introduce who we actually are and share a little bit of our background with you. So I'll introduce myself first. So my pronouns are she, her. I am actually Jen's daughter, so we're a mother-daughter team. We're also business partners, which is really cool. I feel like not a lot of people have the privilege of being able to say that. And we're kind of, even though we're mother-daughter, I feel like we're also like besties.
Yes.
We are sometimes also like twins in a way, like people mistake us for each other.
They have in the past,
Yeah. So, but we're definitely very different, and you will also see that on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of cool to have the experience of, mother-daughter, things being kind of full circle, seeing you as an entrepreneur and as a businesswoman, and now being able to do that with you is a pretty cool experience. So my background has been in the nonprofit sector, specifically around community justice work and crisis work. That's definitely work that is near and dear to my heart. I am a social justice warrior. I don't take that hat off, so that is definitely a big part of who I am and what really matters to me, and that definitely is carried through a lot in our work at Thrive as well as this podcast here. So yeah, I think that's, I guess the other piece I would add is that, one thing that is really important to both of us is just being a survivor-led service. So I identify as a survivor of violence, and that is an important part of my identity. And just being able to share a space and share that experience really openly, where we're destigmatizing that, and really supporting other survivors who are working professionals and leaders, and to support them in their own voice. So yeah, I think that's kind of one of the biggest connecting threads for me. And I will also say that just because we are survivors, or just because one person identifies as a survivor, doesn't mean that their experience speaks for everyone else who's a survivor. We all have different experiences and perspectives, and so I'm just looking forward to sharing mine. But if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My pronouns are she, her, and my background is basically in business, being an entrepreneur for 15 years now, and as well as I spent a lot of time in an indirect role in a faith-based community, which in and of itself has led me kind of on my own journey. I, have experienced abuse, spiritual abuse, violence, and so again, coming out of that experience, really, this podcast is just our passion. Looking at ways that, the wellness industry is overtaking in some respects, and just really wanting to approach that in a ethical and educated way. I'm also a trauma conscious yoga instructor, and that in and of itself has been a journey, being in the yoga community. And so a lot of these things we will be talking about on future podcasts. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think you bring such an amazing perspective, and it's going to be really interesting to be able to share, because we there's so much overlap in our perspectives, but there's also a lot of uniqueness, and so
For sure.
I feel like it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
And so when we started talking about doing this podcast, I mean, we've kind of dabbled with doing different things together, different podcasts, and I feel like everything that we have been doing in the past and talking about has kind of all led us up to this moment.
For sure.
And, this was something that really resonated for both of us and where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that when we were talking about actually starting this podcast, we had considered a few different names, and as soon as we saw The Wellness Dilemma, we instantly were like,
yeah, we do.
We knew.
We knew what it was.
Yeah, and just one thing too, for our viewers and our listeners, we laugh a lot.
We do.
And yeah, so you're probably going to get a lot of laughs from us throughout each episode, because we just get really silly together. But yeah, so I know it was kind of like this moment where we both were like, this feels like the right one. So when you hear that term, the wellness dilemma, what is your interpretation? What comes to mind for you?
Well, I think why it really struck a chord for me when we were talking about it is because of my own journey for wellness. And, it became a dilemma because there's so much information out there, and with social media, it just seems like we're always being inundated with, try this and do this, and I've got the magic potion. And so, I think, I can't speak for you, but I think for the most part, we're both on the same page that, a lot of what this podcast is going to look like is dealing with, information overload and even misinformation. And, I guess one of the things that really strikes me about the wellness dilemma is, it seems like everybody out there has a quick fix or like the magic bullet, or, I've got the answer, just do this one thing. And, from my own experience, I just don't think that's how life really works. And in terms of the evolution of our healing and our health, our inner health, relational health, community, I just think healing is not linear like that, and there isn't a magic bullet. And so we want to really dispel some of these myths and ideas that, just whatever, just meditate and everything will be fine, or just speak positively all the time and your life will turn around. I mean, we are complex human beings, and it's complex. Our wellness, especially if you've come from a background of violence or a traumatic event or experience, oppression. I mean,
yeah, like you can't meditate your way out of systemic oppression.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of, again, we'll get more into this in a minute, but what we'll be looking at are the historical systems of things like oppression or abuse or misogyny or whatever. So yeah, that's, for me, I'm passionate about giving tools and giving education for people around this, and having our listeners be able to think critically for themselves about what we say and figure stuff out on their journey.
Yeah, that's so well said. I completely agree with everything you said. Like, from being in the information age with social media, just, really seeing how much of the wellness information online is also tied in with marketing, and a lot of it can be really schematic and really predatory. And so there's problems with that as well. And also, just like you said, really thinking of wellness beyond just the individual level, but also looking at the community level, the systems level. And I think that's part of what makes you like such an incredible voice for feminism and such a good role model that way, is you are really intersectional in your feminist approach. And it's definitely something that aligns both of us in our work.
That's for sure.
And I agree with everything you said. And I think the other piece for me when I think about the wellness dilemma is knowing the harm that's happening, and knowing, for example, myself being a coach, the coaching industry is unregulated.
Right.
And there has been a ton of harm.
Yes.
And it's kind of like it's like an open...
It's like a free-for-all in some ways.
Yeah, it is. It really has been. There's, no regulatory body to really oversee a lot of that. And so, for me, coming from a justice background, I maybe had a different lens going into it than like a marketing or business lens. But I don't know, it's just sometimes feels like a bit of an ethical dilemma to be part of the wellness industry.
Right.
Knowing kind of what is trending and what is the impression overall about personal wellness and the self-help industry.
For sure. And for me being in business and having a background in business, I see that so much. And everybody has a business to make a living. But when you go into this kind of venue, I guess, the wellness world, sure, it is your business, but it is also a fine line in terms of being ethical and marketing. And I've just seen a whole slew of things that are, way beyond the scope of wellness. It actually can end up causing more harm, and we want to be able to help educate, to navigate that.
Yeah. And I also want to make sure that we say out loud that, we really believe that most people who go into the helping or the wellness sector are really doing it because they genuinely care and they genuinely want to make a difference and want to, bring a lot of good into what they do. And so it's not to say that, we sit up here and we know it all and we're not causing harm.
Absolutely not.
I know I've caused harm. We make mistakes. And I think that's part of being ethical, is being open to hearing feedback, sometimes criticism, being open to learning other perspectives, and just being able to say out loud that our growth is continual.
That's right.
It's going to be ongoing, and as we learn more and find better ways to do things, we'll do them differently.
That's right.
And so I really hope that I hope that we're gonna be a space for other people, good meaning people who are wanting to make a difference in their work.
Yeah.
For them to be able to have those discussions and, you know, learn new skills and learn new perspectives, because there isn't a lot of space for people to really call each other in a way that's an open discussion where it's non-judgmental.
And there's transparency.
Yeah, transparency.
I mean, transparency is huge for both of us, I think, because our heart is for the people that we're interacting with.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I hope that, you know, we'll be able to share information that's going to be helpful to someone who's on a wellness journey or who's wanting to role model or promote wellness in some capacity, but also for those who are in the wellness sector and in the helping sector who want to do this work ethically. And I hope that we get to see some interaction and, you know, discussion, if that's on social media or, you know, reach out to us. It would be great to kind of build off of that community and create that network, and cast a wide net. So yeah, that's should give you a good sense of kind of what we're here to do, what we're hoping to talk about, you know, just being super aware of the harm in this industry and wanting to make sure that we're really doing this work ethically and responsibly and talking about it from within the sector. So yeah, a lot of our episodes will share our ideas about that. I think we're going to start off the next episode by talking about, well, okay, the wellness sector, what does that actually mean? It's kind of an umbrella term, so we'll break that down, talk about what is the harm that's happening and why does that happen, and just build some awareness and build some understanding around that. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Me
and
too.
We'll post the links to our website and to our Instagram. Make sure that you follow us there. You know, leave a comment, reach out to us and let us know what you want us to talk about or what questions you have. But yeah, otherwise, we are looking forward to being here again, and stay tuned for the next episode of The Wellness Dilemma.